Hello. Okay, so I wanted to come on and quickly do a review of the language arts curriculum that we have been using for the past year with Kai for his, 4K year, which we have actually loved. But I really haven't seen any, maybe one other review on it, and I think that one was actually just more of a walkthrough from the creator herself. So I think that it might be interesting to just take a quick look-see. So what we have been using is from A Gentle Feast. So there are two levels, level 1, level 2. There's 100 gentle lessons in sight and sound. It's called that because they do combine sight words and sound, aka phonics. It's all interwoven together in a really good way. And then there's the handwriting piece. So again, 100 lessons, 100 gentle lessons. I think I had mentioned it before, but this curriculum, one of the reasons that I really like it is that there's very minimal just busy work being done just for the sake of work. So that's something that I really appreciate. Now, like I said, there are two. So I have already bought the second one. Again, we haven't gotten to this one yet, so I can't speak on that. We are just a couple lessons away really from finishing up the handwriting and this one and the level 1, but this would be the level 2. You can see about how thick these are. Level 2 in the handwriting is actually cursive. So you can see here it's up to cursive once they get to level 2. There are only 2 levels. So the idea is that after they complete those 2 levels, they know the handwriting actual mechanisms, and yes, practice is still needed, but there's no point in having a separate handwriting curriculum for that practice because they're going to be getting practice through their writing just within their other school curriculum. So their copy work, their other writings that they're needing to be done, that's where they're going to be getting their handwriting practice. So again, going along with that, you just have to make sure that you are staying on top of, they have to be doing their best effort and focus on the writing, even though they're not in a handwriting curriculum, because after they get past the second book, they don't have a handwriting curriculum anymore. But to give you an idea of the handwriting, so it starts off, I should say, the kids should know, they should know the basics of the letters before they get into this. But it starts off with this, and in other handwriting curriculums, I've just seen, like 6 lines of letters that they had to complete, or multiple letters on the same page. It just was more busy. But I appreciated that this was very simple. You can see in the first lesson, there were literally just six C's that he needed to make, and we kind of mixed it up a little bit. We had this game going where I would pick my favorite one and he would pick his favorite one. We would talk about why that one was the best. So every lesson they have a different letter that they're working on. So then they get into the capital letters. Again, it's very simple, but this is what I appreciated from it. So this was lesson 76. They're up to that. And after a certain point, they actually start incorporating words. So, for example, this was the letter V. So this was lesson 74, practicing the capital V's. But at the same time, the second part of lesson 74 was a little bit of copy work of writing the word violet. So that was something that they started to incorporate probably about the middle-ish of the book. Now, towards the end, they do practice numbers as well. So the number 3, the word 3, and then they also have 3 ducks, something like that. And at the very end, so we are, like I said, just a couple of we're just a handful of lessons away from the very, very end. So this is lesson 95, and over, I think it's starting 95 to 100, they actually do copy work of the entire Twinkle Twinkle Little Star song. So this is considered, that's the end. So we are very, very close. Kai wants to do this as his first thing every single time we're doing activities, because I basically have the pile of stuff that we do, and he always says writing first, writing first. This is what so I mean, even though it's really simple, there's not a lot of, I mean, there's no colors, there's nothing fancy or really eye-catching in terms of what we would normally consider eye-catching. Kai really enjoys this. So I'm anticipating that would continue through the handwriting curriculum for level 2. But that's been our experience with the handwriting. Very bare bones, but it seems to be very effective. We just always review beforehand that we have 2 rules. We have to focus on full attention and best effort, because the lesson only lasts 5 minutes, if that. So if he's paying attention, it goes by in just a couple of minutes. So this, again, I mentioned that they incorporate both sight words and phonics, and from what I have seen in terms of the creators' recommendations beforehand, they are recommending that you have your child know the sounds of the letters prior to starting. Now, disclaimer, Kai did use phonics pathways prior to using this book. We didn't get through the whole phonics pathways book, and actually I don't have it in front of me. It is upstairs, so I will have to perhaps make a different video later on showing you what we used prior to this book. But bottom line is he already had some decent beginner phonics background. I think he had, to give you an idea, he had probably gotten through the first 3 boxes of Bob books, 3 or 4. So he had a baseline already, but in theory, you should be able to start this up with a child who really has bare bones knowledge and just knows the sound of the letters. So we did 1 lesson per day, but again, this is really based on mastery. So if your kid really isn't getting it, you don't keep going. You just stay where you're at and focus on that until they understand, and then you move on. So to give you an idea, and I think these first pages are actually on the sample pages that are available online, so you can see them for yourself as well. But the way that they do it is they took these really vintage looking, well, actually vintage pictures from an old book, and incorporated a whole bunch of childhood nursery rhymes as really the basis of this program. So you can see lesson 1, they have A, B, C, tumble down D, the cat is in the cupboard and can't see me. So you would start by reading the rhyme, pointing to each word, and then there are flashcards that are given for certain lessons. So I organized all of mine in a little index card box here. These little cards are included with the program. You just have to cut them out yourself, but it was very easy to do. So I just organized it by lesson. So this was lesson 1, and then the words right here. So basically what I would do is I would just say the word, and then he would just repeat after me. Down, and, the, see, etc. And then the third step is that we would go back after we're done looking at all these cards. We would say, okay, here's down. Please find down in the rhyme. So Kai would look through here and find down. So again, teaching the sight word component of it. Then here in the first lesson, they're saying that you would have your child practice writing the letter in a tray of sand. On other days, you just mix it up. Some days it's on a chalkboard, some days it's on a whiteboard. It really depends on your own child's preference. There's not really a wrong or a right way there. You just want them to be actually writing it somewhere, somehow. And again, in that, for these parts of the lessons, I'm not so focused on the handwriting piece because I'm just really focused on him knowing the word itself. So once that's done, that's the end of the lesson. So a lot of them are in this kind of a format. So read the rhyme, show the words, find the word in the rhyme, write the word somehow. So whether it's in sand or actually writing down on paper or chalkboard or whiteboard or whatever you please, that is what would be done. So that's lesson 1. And again, for us, I don't think they ever really lasted, incorporating all of that, I don't think they usually lasted more than 10-15 minutes in terms of the lesson. Very straightforward, really no busy work. You can see he's not really doing much in this book. There's a little bit that's done, but it's not a ton. Lesson 2, so this is more of the phonics lesson. So it says here, you would read the rhyme from the last time around. We would show the cards again from that rhyme and have him find them again in the rhyme. And then we would have him make these words using the mat. So there's a mat that's actually provided with the curriculum. So for 3-letter words, 4 and 5-letter words. Now after a while, we actually stopped using this, and because this is really just to gain fluency in blending the sounds together. But I mean, if your kid is not struggling with that, they don't necessarily need to use this. They can just put the letters on the table, which is what we ended up doing. So I already showed you the word cards. These are the letter tiles. So again, this is something that was provided with the curriculum. I just cut them out, and I did laminate them just for durability. You don't have to, but they certainly have really, they have lasted, and none of them seem to be falling apart. So again, it's just all the letters. And I wouldn't just give him the bag and say, okay, well, go find the letters you need. I would pull out the letters that we would need for that lesson, and then just have those on the table, and then he would find the appropriate letters. So for example, I would say, can you please make the word pat? And he would find the letters to make pat. So we would go through that. And that's the end of lesson 2. Let me give you another example. So Kai loved these sorts of lessons. So again, lesson 3, we're still working on that same rhyme, A, B, C, tumble down D. Lesson 4, it's the same thing, except this time around, we cut out these pages, or these pieces rather, and then they were all shuffled around, and Kai had to find out through actually reading them, because this is lesson 4 now, we've been saying these words the whole time, so he's more familiar with them if he wasn't already, and he would figure out which one goes first, second, third, fourth, and glue them in. He loved these. He's constantly asking, when's the next time we have a cutting page? So he really enjoyed that. So after that, we're on to a next rhyme. So this one's Little Jack Horner sat in a corner eating his Christmas pie. Again, these are super vintage pictures. They are adorable. But I've really appreciated the quality of this work. You can see we did the same sort of a thing. So this would be another lesson where you're reading, showing the cards, having him repeat your words, finding those words within the rhyme, and then he would write them somehow, whichever way we pleased. Back to a phonics lesson. And again, that's more of making the words with the tiles. Cutting lesson. Occasionally, they will have, okay, so this was one that this was quite common in the beginning. I didn't see it so much towards the end. But this is working with the letter tiles. So it says here, make the word cat. You make the word cat. Change one letter, make cat into mat. Make mat into mad. Mad into man, man into pan. So you're just switching one letter at a time. So Kai enjoyed that. Occasionally, not too often, but occasionally there would be a lesson like this where Kai would match things, but it was not a common occurrence there. Again, occasionally there would be more of a copywork thing. So at the end of working with that same Little Jack Horner sat in a corner rhyme for several days, he's more familiar with it, and the last lesson would be actually some copywork of the first sentence, Little Jack Horner sat in a corner. So that was what, lesson 11? Now to give you an idea where this ends, or let me give you something in the middle here. So lesson 50. Well, I suppose I should do that one because that's the last lesson in a series. But okay, so lesson 51. Now we're doing Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty. Lesson 75 here. To bed, said sleepyhead. And you can see towards the end, the phonics piece is starting to get a little bit more advanced. Now we're talking about the A sounds, tail, rain, train, etc. So it's getting a little bit more advanced there. And to give you an idea of the last one, the most recent one that we did, Little Old Woman Who Lived in a Shoe. Kai has absolutely adored this. He is doing great with reading. So in terms of his level, again, I can't speak for other families, other kids, but Kai seems, based on the other books that he's reading, I would say he's probably at a second grade level, just having gone through the initial phonics prior and then this program. This is the second level, like I said. We have not gone through this, so I don't know, I really can't speak to it, but it looks very, very similar in the format. It does come with this extra book of words I can read. So I think the idea here, I haven't looked into it a tremendous amount yet because we're not quite there yet, but I believe you actually start writing down, or he writes down, or I write down, I'm not sure yet, the words that he actually is very familiar with. So they have a better understanding of all the tremendous amount of words that they already know. So you can see here, lesson 1, this is where we're starting off. And I know it looks quite intimidating, it looks like a lot of words, but I was very surprised at how easily Kai was able to pick this up, just by the combination of sight word practice and phonics. He was doing very, very well. Again, there's occasional copy work, more of phonics work there, but again, it's not just a ton of pages for Kai to be doing in just paperwork and workbook type stuff. Most of this really is just reading and a place to glue things, the cutting out pages that I was talking about, and I didn't really talk about this, but this that they have at the end of the second book, they also had at the end of the first. So it's actually a game page. So we only did this a couple of times with Kai. He loved it actually, but we found that it was probably a little unnecessary. So they have a couple of games that you could play with the kids if they seem like they need extra practice, if you don't feel like you could move on, you needed to stay where you were and practice right there. So you would just take a couple of dies. We had some big dies, or dies that we used, and we threw those, and based on the numbers that you got, you would read a certain word, and I'm not explaining it very well, but Kai just loved it, but we found that we didn't really need to do it because he was doing fine with the work that there was in that was present in the book. So we're thinking that he probably will be done with the level 1 handwriting and sight and sound book, I would guess about a week or so, because we don't do this every single day. And then we'll just be chugging right along to this one. But since I haven't really seen any sort of reviews on this book before, on these books, I thought I would give you a little look-see and explanation as to how it works and how it worked in our family for Kai. So I hope this was helpful.